Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed viewers. Welcome to this session of our research support webinar series. Today, we are privileged to have with us Professor Ravinder Rena from the Northwest University Business School. Professor Ravinder is a professor of economics and also responsible for internationalization project within the business school. He will be talking today about how we can formulate the research design. Prof. Rena, over to you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Prof. Marcus Sambe. At the outset, I would like to congratulate and also appreciate the Africa Institute of Supply Chain Research, the President, Professor Ambe Marcus, for this initiative. And also I applaud the various other webinars that you've been conducting for the past 2 weeks, for every 2 weeks, you mean, for the past few months. That is indeed a nice probably platform for different researchers across African continent and other parts of the world where we can share our knowledge and wisdom with regard to the research. And so with that, Prof. Marcus and the colleagues who are working hard, Mateki and other colleagues who are working for the Africa Institute of Supply Chain Research, it is indeed my pleasure to be part of this particular program. So today I'm going to talk about the what is the research design and how we formulate this research design. So before we go, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to just emphasize probably a few things about the research. I'd like to mention here that why do we do research and what is the fun in doing research? And different people will have different perspectives that somebody will say that, I do research because I do my MBA or my master's degree. Or somebody else will say that I do research because I am doing PhD or DBA and so on and so forth. But indeed, research is much more than that. It's not getting the qualification of the paper per se, but you're doing research to make yourself alive. And for example, I always remember the important point that a leader is known in his domain, in his territory, in his location, whereas the scholar is known in the world. For example, if we talk about President Cyril Ramaphosa, South African president, is known in South African jurisdiction or South African boundaries. Probably maybe in other parts of Africa also it may be known. But if we go and ask about President Ramaphosa in Thailand or in Taiwan, or maybe in Burkina Faso, or in maybe Somalia, people, they may not know about him. But if we ask about Einstein, Albert Einstein, or Shakespeare, and maybe any other stalwarts who has contributed immensely for the literature development, for the science and technology, for economic business research, management research, and so on, Philip Kotler and Peter F. Drucker. So all these people are known to us. Why? Because through their research. So although Albert Einstein died more than 70 years ago, but we still remember Albert Einstein and his contributions. And we still quote about him because the contributions are research that he made and the way he contributed to our body of knowledge or the wisdom. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, with that note, I would like to mention that a researcher is known in the world, but leader, if you are a provincial leader, if you are a local leader at village level or whatever level that you are known only to that particular jurisdiction. So that is, with that note, ladies and gentlemen, we all should take the spirit that we do the research not only for the qualification of the paper, but much more than that. So one day in the coming probably 50 to 70 years down the line, all of us sitting in this platform today, we will be leaving this world. That is for sure. Whether we agree or not, whether we like it or not, that is the fact. So when we leave this world, somebody else will quote Professor Ambe Marcus, Professor Anne-Marie Pelser, or whoever is sitting here, that they would like to, whatever contribution that they made, and then according to so and so. So that will still make you alive, ladies and gentlemen. So with that, I would like to take you to the research design. How do we formulate this research design, and what is important in formulating the research design? Research design is a core of our research process, research thought process. So meaning that we need to have this design in order for us to collect the data and also analyze the data or interpret the data. So these are the two important aspects when we are conducting the research, and that is why research design falls as one of the important aspects of the research methodology and research in general. So I would like to I just outlined some of my points as part of my speech today. So the introduction, I just gave you some. And then there is always a bit of confusion between the research method and the research design. So most of us, we think that they are one and the same. And so there's always a bit of complexity and a bit of confusion that exists between these two concepts. But ladies and gentlemen, we must remember that research design is just like it's like a framework where we that will provide a kind of guidance and a kind of a support where we can try to obtain the knowledge and understanding on how to collect the data and how to analyze that particular data. So that is what research design in general. But research method in particular, that it is also, it looks like a bit of similar, but we do have certain methods where we use the research methods, such as maybe somebody will observe something in the process. Somebody will try to use the kind of questionnaire to collect the data. Someone may use, let's say, a semi-structured interview schedules, or somebody will use the contents and diaries and the different types of reports, and we try to make the content analysis. So we do have different types of approaches here as part of the research method. And then, so that's how the research method is basically all about. Then we have the level of analysis where we use different kind of stakeholders, where we use individuals, we use organizations, we use different people, maybe people in general or people in particular, if they are working as senior management or middle level management and junior management, or probably the support staff and so on and so forth. So as part of the unit of analysis, we use different people and different organizations or different departments and different nationals or different nationalities and so on and so forth. So that is what, and the types of research design that can be structured into 5 types. As I outlined there, it is an experimental research design and cross-sectional research design, longitudinal research design, and case study, as well as the comparative research design. So let me take you to a little bit of details here, ladies and gentlemen. I was mentioning about the definition of the research design. As you can see here, that research design provides a framework for the collection and analysis of the data. As a choice, a research design reflects on the decisions about priorities given to the dimensions of the research process. Whereas the research method is a technique on how to collect the data. As I mentioned to you just now, that we use different types of, somebody uses observation, somebody uses probably a questionnaire and a schedule and so on and so forth. So this is the main difference between research design. And as part of the level of analysis, I mentioned also about the individuals, groups, organizations, and societies or ethnic groups that we also looked at. Now, we always worried about the trustworthiness. We have the validity, the reliability, the trustworthiness, I don't know, the confirmability and the dependability and all those transferability and issues such as that. So whatever research that we conduct, it is not only we conduct research for ourselves, but also for others. Now, when we do the research, we must be mindful about all these important issues, that so that our research is more valid and our research is more reliable, and somebody else can use this probably research, and they quote us and they try to even replicate. So that's why the research is important. Now, as I mentioned to you that these are the 5 types of research design. Now, the experimental design, if you look at what kind of experiments one can we make? And most of us sitting here, we are all social scientists, and social scientists do not sit in the laboratories as such. So when we look at the scientists coming from physics background or chemistry, botany, geology, or genetics and engineering, maybe probably the computer science and so on and so forth, they try to sit in the laboratories, the computer laboratories or chemical laboratories or physics laboratories and so on. So they sit and they try to make the experiment, and then they try to do the testing. It's a pre-testing and the post-testing process, and then they try to see whether an independent variable is influencing in any manner the dependent variables, with what impact it is creating. So that's what they would try to test. Whereas when it comes to the social science research, where we are all different scholars sitting from different parts of Africa here, that we come from different backgrounds, meaning that somebody may be coming from a business administration or a management area or economics area, finance area, the supply chain and logistics area, and human resource management or talent management, and different areas that we come from. So the areas, whichever area that we come from, we basically look at the field experiment. So that is what the experiment that we conduct. Now the field, the world is our field. So wherever you wanted to conduct the data and however you want to conduct the data, so the world is bigger and it is not confined to the 4 walls of a laboratory, but it is much more than that. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, the experimental design is one of the core issue of the social science and management research. Now, when we take the experimental design, we have a classical research design. As part of this, what we do is that we try to create a kind of group which is experimental or treatment group. They are popularly known as treatment group. So the group who are, let's say that now, with regard to the COVID-19, the COVID-19 for the past 7-8 months down the line is hitting very badly all over the world. And countries like America, Brazil, India, and Russia, South Africa used to be number 5, but we moved a little bit down the line to 8th rank for the past couple of days. So now the challenge here is that as part of this pandemic, many of us, we are undergoing the what do you call a kind of training, a training process. So what needs to be done, what kind of precautions we need to take, and so on and so forth. So the people who are trained with this process and the people who are not trained with this process. So we need to identify that. So meaning that in order to make it clear to you here, that we have the control group, which are not trained, which are not undergone the training yet. But the people, those who undergone the training, they are experimental group. So what is the perception of the people who went with the training? How they feel about this virus? What kind of precautions they can able to take? Whether washing hands or probably using sanitizers, using personal protective equipment, or probably maintaining the social distancing, and so on and so forth. So this is basically an experimental group who are undergone the training. They are well versed, and they can say that they are confident on how to protect themselves and also protect others from this particular pandemic. So that is kind of distinction between the experimental group or the treatment group that we have one side, and the control group on the other side, where they are still yet to undergo the treatment. They may have a bit of anxiety, they may be having a fear, they do not know what to do and how to do, and things like that. So that's how we can try to distinguish between these 2 groups, experimental group as well as control group, ladies and gentlemen. And then let me quickly take you to the, we do need to take so many precautions while we are taking this experimental design, that what is the homogeneity factor, what is the heterogeneity factor? Are we trying to take a certain age group between maybe, let's say, 25 to 35 or 25 to 50 years? Are we going to take the male and female genders in a properly proportionate way, or are we going to represent the different units? Let's say in a cluster format, we do have different units formed. Somebody comes from marketing, somebody comes from human resource development, and somebody comes from production, somebody comes from finance, and logistics and procurement process. So these are various factors that we need to take into account when we do that kind of selection of the sample size. Now, so this is basically, and then let me quickly take you to the, yeah. So we do have the second one, which is cross-sectional design, where the cross-sectional design is largely used in the management research and the business research. So what do we do in the cross-sectional design? So we all know, ladies and gentlemen, that if we look at the research, different research methods that we use, we do have a time series analysis where most of the quantitative experts are researchers who are well grounded with the quantitative skills, like economists or econometricians or statisticians, mathematicians, and all those people, probably some of the social scientists also, or management scientists as well. They can use this probably time series analysis. So time series analysis, what we do generally is that if we wanted to study about South Africa, for example, for the last 26 years of our independence, then how the unemployment levels are being increased or decreased. So we are taking one variable or one case, and that is unemployment, and multiple periods, and we are trying to see how is the trend, how is the trajectory, how the trend is moving. So that's what we look at as part of the time series analysis. Whereas in the cross-sectional, we try to look at different cases. It's not only the unemployment issue as such, but maybe we look at the poverty, we look at the social probably security, we look at the income level, or we look at the per capita incomes and different other aspects we look at, but we will take one particular year or a given period of time. So in a given period of time, what is happening with regard to these various factors or various cases we are trying to look at. So that is what we basically see as part of the cross-sectional study. So the cross-sectional study, as you can see the slide, and we largely use in the management research and in the business research and economic research and most of the social science research. So it is just like a questionnaire which is structured in nature, and we try to conduct interviews at any single point of time, and we try to collect the data and we try to analyze the data accordingly. So if we look at the aim to collect the body of quantitative and probably data, the connection, we are trying to look at what is the connection that exists between two variables, whether it is we have an independent variable and we have a dependent variable. Let's say, for example, as far as economics is concerned, in order to establish the relationship, what is the causality? What is the relationship that been existing between two or more than two variables? Let's say demand is depending upon not only its price, but also on the income of the consumer, tastes and the preferences of the consumer, population size, technology, and various other probably, the prices of other related goods, whether they are complementary goods or whether they are maybe substitute goods and so on and so forth. So the demand of a particular product, maybe let's say demand for a Samsung cell phone, smartphone, is not only depending upon its own price, but also on various other factors. So which factor is influencing the demand of that particular product? We need to see whether the income is influencing a lot. His income is having maybe about 70% impact, or income is having only 2% impact. So that's how we try to see and try to look at the causalities. We look at the relationship, what kind of relationship that exists between these two variables or more than two variables. So that's how we try to take, ladies and gentlemen, and then, so this is how we try to, observations we look at and the different cases we look at, and we try to prepare the matrix in this manner. And then we can also look at the measurement, the validity, as I was telling you about the reliability, the Cronbach alpha test that we normally use in order to see the reliability issues. So we do have different statistical and econometrics, probably different other software that they provide us various methods and techniques for us to determine the validity issues and the reliability issues and the conformability issues and so on and so forth. So let me take you to the longitudinal studies. Now, longitudinal studies is probably we take multiple periods here. We also take the multiple cases here. So cases could be the behavior of the consumer, how a consumer attitude is being changed over a period of time. For example, if you look at, ladies and gentlemen, there was a survey that was conducted in 2003 by Human Science Research Council, and the reports are available on the public domain. You can also go through the report. They have taken almost 3,500 sample size in different parts of South Africa, that they try to see the attitude, the social attitudes, how they are changing from time to time because of different circumstances and because of different situations that they undergone. So that's how they try to see. And what had happened that they try to see as part of the longitudinal study. And then I would also like to mention that in America, there was a panel study, a longitudinal study that was conducted a while back. They started conducting this study probably more than 70 years back. So meaning that now it is 2020 we have, and probably about 1950 they have started this study. So what they identified, there are some group of probably close to 1,000 individuals that they identified, and they are all the age group of about teenagers, let's say between the age of maybe 15 or 13 to 19, or let me say at 15 to 19 age group. So they have taken those people, they continually begin to study for the past 70 years. Many of them died, and some of them, one became a president of America, and then probably there are maybe scavengers, some of them are plumbers, some of them electricians, some of them are CEOs, and some of them are having a big businesses, became a multi probably the corporate sector or the multinational companies. So that is what had happened. And then they've been conducting this study, panel study or longitudinal study for every now and then between the age when they are teenagers, how they are thinking about, what is their attitude, what are the requirements, and when they became probably 25, then how their behaviors are being changed. The same group of people, but in different periods. They try to make sure that they have a track record, and they try to see how these people are been behaving and changing. So they come, even there are people, recently they have conducted the study on the same set of people. They have come up with some sort of interesting findings. So, and they all agreed that, so it is all the social relationship, how you maintain, how best you maintain. That's what it determines. Whether you are a president, whether you are a scavenger, and whether you are whichever position that you owns, maybe you are a CEO, or you are a professor, or you're a doctor or engineer, lawyer, doesn't matter. But how best do we maintain the social relationship with not only our the families and friends, but also our neighborhood, but also our societies. So that will make you more powerful, more immune, or more we will be more confident, and we will be more happier. So that is the kind of interesting finding they come up with. So this is a longitudinal study, particularly social science research. Those of you doing a master's degree or a PhD degree, a longitudinal study, it would be difficult for you because it is an expensive exercise, number one. Number two, you got a time constraints. So you cannot, you got only 2 or 3 years or maximum 5 years time, then you need to wrap up your research. So therefore, most of our students, they will not go for the longitudinal design as such. Now, this is what the observations from time one, maybe 1920 and probably 1950 or 1970, 1990 or things like that. We have taken different time periods and different observations, and we have seen what kind of impact and what kind of relationships are been existing, or how their behaviors are being changed over a period of time. That can be looked at with these longitudinal studies. Now, so the case study is an important research design. Well, nowadays it became more important. Most of our business, economic, and probably management research, we would like to look at the case study approaches. So case study, you can take an individual, you can take an organization, you can take a department, you can take any particular area where you like to study in detail, and you explore what is the probably problems and prospects, and what is the different other backgrounds of those organizations. So we try to go in detail. We take one or two observations and few observations, and we try to dig deeper and find out what is happening with that particular organization. So that is why case study approach is becoming very important, and we all find probably Harvard cases, we have MIT cases, we have Oxford cases, and so many other cases probably become more popular nowadays. So that is about the case study design. And then we have the comparative design. So where we can make the comparison between different variables. If there are different theories that we have, let's say as part of economics, we got maybe a theory that was propounded by David Ricardo, comparative advantage theory. And probably Adam Smith says absolute advantage theory. So we can see a comparison, or then thereafter we'll see Heckscher and Hoylein theory of international trade. So what kind of comparisons that you can make between these three theories, and which theory is found to be better, and why it is found to be better? Why the other theories failed in order to address certain research questions? So that's what we do. We use this comparative design to evaluate, and we can also, whether a particular company in South Africa, let's say Vodacom, is it performing better than its counterparts, or its probably other competitors like MTN, Cell C, or Telecom? So we try to compare that. So this is how a comparative design also can be used. And there are lots of criticisms on each and every method, but nonetheless, none of the method is free from the criticism. We can always try to criticize. We can learn from the criticism, and we can apply the best principles, best practices, and we can try to use them as part of our research. So I think in the interest of time, ladies and gentlemen, that I would like to conclude that, so now we do have both quantitative research and the qualitative research. So those are for us who are doing, particularly who come from the human resource background, or humanities background, or maybe industrial psychology background, or talent management background. So if they would like to have the qualitative research, for example. And those, as I mentioned in the beginning, that those who come with the maybe statistics, economics, or econometrics, or mathematics, and backgrounds such as that, they would like to use the quantitative method. Now, somebody will ask a question, which method is better here? So every method is important, equally important, that these two methods are considered to be the two sides of the same coin. If you take a 5-rand coin, a head and a tail, so both are important. If we take head out, then the coin will become invalid, and tail out will also become invalid. So therefore, both the quantitative and the qualitative methods, they are literally considered as the two sides of the same coin. They cannot be separated, but they can be combined. That is why in most of our management and business economic researches, we tend to use both quantitative and qualitative research. So though it has got some quantitative, probably I do not have much time to discuss about, but quantitative, it has got its own merits, and it also has got its own weaknesses, and qualitative on the other side also got its own merits and its own weaknesses as well. But ladies and gentlemen, whichever method that you use, but try to use appropriately, try to use concisely, and to the extent possible that you try to follow the golden principles of those quantitative and qualitative methods, and then you try to structure your research, whether it is an article or whether it is a thesis or a mini dissertation or a dissertation, whichever you do, you need to follow those principles and try to apply them with some sort of standard. So otherwise, there is no concrete approach that quantitative is the best method or qualitative is not the best method as such. There's nothing like that. So any method that you can use, as long as you're comfortable, that you can use any method, and you can follow those 5 different types of research designs, and you can try to structure your probably research, and you can present your analysis in the best possible manner. But with that, few remarks from my side, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to conclude my presentation here. If you got any questions or clarifications, you are welcome to approach me. Thank you very much. And once again, Prof. Hambe Marcus, the president of the African Institute of Supply Chain Research, and his core members for providing me this opportunity to be with you this afternoon. Thank you, Varanda.
Thank you very much, Prof. Rena. Colleagues, you would have